Hello, my name is Ashley, this is Faithful Rattos, and welcome or welcome back. So in today's video, I actually have a requested topic. It was requested quite a while ago, but it's been added to my list of video ideas, and that is to talk about rat puberty and adolescence. Now, I think this is a really interesting topic, and it's not something that I've really heard spoken about very much, but there are a lot of things that people experience that are sort of tied to this, and there's issues that can pop up in this sort of age range. And so I thought it would be interesting to just do a short little video talking about puberty and adolescence and what you can expect from your rats during this time and what to look out for and things like that. So I think it would be really interesting and insightful for us to look at a rat's life from birth to this period that I call puberty or adolescence. I think adolescence is probably a little bit better, but it's not like humans. They don't have the same sort of puberty cycle that we do. Obviously, they're different animals, but it's just the sort of kind of equivalent word that we have to describe this period. So from 0 to 3 weeks, they are fed solely by mum, and they sort of break the nest around 2.5 weeks when they open their eyes, but they are still really dependent on mum, and they feed from her. Then from 3 to 5 weeks, they start to self-wean from mum, eating solids, and by 5.5 weeks, they should be completely done eating by themselves, and they don't need mum's milk anymore. And then at about 5-ish weeks, 5.5 weeks, kind of dependent on the line, this is when they would be separated from their opposite sex siblings and mum if they're a buck kitten. And this is a really important thing that happens because baby girls will have their vaginal opening open at around 5.5-ish weeks. It really depends on the line, and at that point, that is when they can start to get pregnant. So it's really important that you take the boys away, because even though they may not quite know what they're doing, they are capable of getting the females pregnant, and mum is at a risk as well. Not as much, but she is also at a risk. So this is the point when you split them. Then between 5 and 8 weeks, this is a really important time in their development. No, they aren't reliant on mum, but this is really important because they are socializing, they're learning about social needs with their siblings, and it's really important for their immune system, because this is the first time their immune system is having to work by themselves, because when they have been fed by mum or weaned slowly by mum, their mother's immunity is in the milk, and when they stop eating milk, they need to fend for themselves, as it were, when it comes to immunity and immunoresponse. And so it's really important that at least up until 8 weeks they are in the same place they were born, if at all possible, because this is the time where they are developing their immune system and they're developing socially. And this is also a time when they can go through a fear phase, because they've been separated from mum and everything's different. So it's really important for them, their development this stage. Then at between 8 to 10 weeks, this is time for them to go to their new homes in pairs or in trios, because it's really important for their social needs to maintain same age company. It's really important for them to have this social company up until just before this adolescence period that we're going to talk about, because it's really important for their social development. Then we have between 14 to 16 weeks is probably the end of what most people would call kittenhood for rats. And this is the notion that we use that shows at 14 weeks they are no longer a kitten. However, they are still in this transitional growth phase and are growing still pretty rapidly. They're just not kittens anymore, if that makes sense. But the growth rate of the rat really does depend on the line. Some lines will mature really quickly, and about 14 to 16 weeks old, they'll be their adult size, and some lines will mature more slowly. A lot of the rats I've had in the past have been this mature more slowly type of rat, and they don't really reach their peak until about a year old, but it can be sooner than that if you have a rat that is maturing faster. So that is the end of kittenhood. And then you have from about 3 to 4 months up until 6 months that I would denote as like childhood, quotations. It's not like a human childhood, but this is before they have a hormonal surge of adolescence like we have as humans, but after that sort of really small kind of infancy stage. So this stage is still really important, and they are still growing and learning, and it's a really developmental time for them. but it's not as developmental as before, and it's not quite into the puberty stage. And the puberty stage, the adolescent stage that I'm talking about, is generally from around 6 to 12 months. It can start a little bit earlier and it can go on a little bit later, depending on how fast the line matures. And as with people, this is a really huge variant. Some girls will start their menstrual cycle at like 9 or 10, and some girls won't start until they're 16. And that is quite a long period of time for that. And it's the same with rats. This period is not like set in stone, but the general sort of range in age for this period is between 6 and 12 months. Now, the reason why this period is important for you to know about and to look out for certain things is because this is a time where rats can get a hormonal surge. Now, this is particularly apparent in bucks. I haven't really noticed it in does as much. I don't know whether it's my does or just does in general, but I do find that once does are sexually mature at like 6 to 8 weeks, they are raring and ready to go. They have their heat cycle every 3 to 4 or 5 days ish, and they're just going. And obviously they're continuing to grow and they mature socially and physically, but I don't think they have the same sort of hormonal surge that I found that my bucks have. And so it's really important to know if you keep books about this period. This is generally also when their growth will plateau. Now, rats technically don't ever stop growing, but obviously it becomes much less apparent as they reach this point. So between the sort of 5 to 8, 9 month mark is generally when you see their growth rate plateau and get pretty flat. I have heard that does often will have a growth spurt after having a litter, and I don't know why that is. It may be to do with the hormones associated with pregnancy, but I have heard about does having a growth spurt after being weaned from their litter. Very interesting. But yeah, generally at this time, rats will stop growing noticeably. So this is the time where they'll have a hormone spike. This is like humans. This spike can wear off, or their body can sort of get used to it, the new levels of hormones, specifically testosterone. But sometimes it doesn't. And this is what we start to call hormonal aggression. And hormonal aggression is aggression linked to a high level of testosterone that isn't well coped with, that is causing a lot of emotional stress and frustration in the book. It is a medical condition, and it is really important that we solve it, because this is something that not only impacts the well-being of that one rat, but it impacts the well-being of all the other rats in the group as well. This is also a period where intros can be trickier. This is apparent because of the hormones. Sometimes it's just they're a bit trickier, they're more complicated, but sometimes it is that if we do intros at this time and a rat is having a hormonal imbalance, this is when we're going to start to see the behavior that is causing intros to derail, and this is the time when you're going to start needing to consider neutering rats. And this is generally the age where they do get neutered. Now, it can happen later. I've had rats sort of 18, like around 18 months need to get neutered. Usually, though, that is a change of environment, whether they have moved home or the environment itself has changed. So the two times I'm thinking of is when Toast came here from Emmy, and I think he was about 15, 16 months old when he got neutered. And then also Ezio, when my girls moved in, he needed to get implanted because he started to be not a very nice leader at that time. So yeah, hormonal aggression is something to look out for at this time. I do have a video all about hormonal aggression, so I'm not going to go too in depth in it, but I will tell you that hormonal aggression is a medical issue that absolutely needs to be seen to. It's not appropriate just to keep the rat by itself, because the level of stress and the mental strain and the well-being strain on that rat that is resulting in the aggression is still there when they're by themselves, and it's not appropriate to keep rats by themselves because of aggression. It does need to be seen to. So yeah, that is pretty much everything you need to know about the puberty period. It's not something that is really big and drastic. It's not like anything major. It's just something for you to think about and notice, and to consider that at this time is generally when hormonal aggression will arise. And if you are attempting intros with rats who are in this age bracket, to just be aware, because this is the time when issues can arise, and you obviously want the issues to be dealt with. Now, This is another reason why breeders will tend to breed their bucks later, if at all possible, so that they can observe the rat throughout this period and out through the other end of it before breeding them. And unfortunately, it's not always possible, as in my case, it's not possible because of logistics. I'm going to have to breed my bucks during this phase. But that is why a lot of breeders will use older bucks compared to the does, because of this period and wanting to see how the rat copes throughout the whole time, so they're not breeding in sort of genetic health issues associated with an increase in hormones at this time. And so yeah, that is puberty / adolescence in rats, and particularly in male rats. And as I've said, I'm not that familiar with females compared to the way I am with bucks, so I could be missing a bit of context when it comes to does in this period, but I myself have not found this to be true. And generally, when does are being bred, they're in this period of time because that's when it's the healthiest and safest for them to go through pregnancy and birth. But yeah, so any more questions, do leave them down there in the comments. And like this video was spurred from a comment, if you have any topics you'd like me to cover, do leave that in the comments for me to see. If you want to follow along with my journey, please do subscribe. It really helps me out. As I mentioned, there's lots of exciting things coming up here. Hopefully some babies in the next couple of months, and just my general journey. And I really do try to give a honest view on my rat keeping journey and rat keeping in general. And if that's something that you want a piece of, do subscribe. I also have channel memberships. If you're interested to support me in the rats in that way, there is a variety of tier levels and perks associated with that. The lowest level is $1.99 a month, and it goes up until about £20 a month. So yeah, if you are interested, please do all the things, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!